Hello, everyone, and welcome to SheThePeople.tv's Mental Health Summit Reframe. I'm Archana Pai Kulkarni, and I'm going to be in conversation with three remarkable women, Anju Venkat, GL Sampoorna, and Chitra on simple, authentic ways to optimize emotional well being. Welcome, ladies. It's a pleasure and privilege to be chatting with you. A
Thank
health
you.
counselor, nutritionist, and co facilitator, Anju Venkat is CD and CA, chief doer and chief of all at the Health Awareness Center, HAC, founded by the late Dr. Vijaya Venkat in 1989. Anju's personal battles with illness in her early years strengthened her resolve to overcome them. She undertook copious studying about health and nutrition through the Life Science College Texas PhD program. Her eye opening partnership with CASA, an NGO working with HIV positive people, helped her develop the broad guidelines of putting health and nutrition into daily life practices. Anju is dedicated to the purity of natural living principles and adding life to life. Thak's motivational engine is her brainchild. Dr. G.L. Sampoorna is an internationally recognized psychologist, author, and trainer, and an expert in the art of personal growth and transformation. She has a PhD in applied psychology in the area of forgiveness and is a pioneer in forgiveness research and work in India. She's a licensed Heal Your Life teacher trainer for India and an LLP master trainer. Her innovative awareness integration expansion approach to psychological growth is holistic. Dedicated to providing high quality mental health care, she founded Ratna Center for Conscious Living, which offers therapy and coaching as well as transformative workshops, mind body spirit retreats, leader training programs, and more. Her services are available online, in person, and through telephone. Chitra Jha calls herself a self empowerment coach and she teaches by personal example. She has worn many hats over the decades, from being a specialist nursing officer in the Indian military to being a homeopath, Reiki master, past life therapist, inner child healer, and an author of four popular books. Since 2017, she has been leading life skills workshops on WhatsApp and also in person, besides offering one on one coaching. Her subjects include physical, mental, emotional, financial, and relational health, and that's a lot. In fact, she covers all areas of human existence, challenges, adventures across all ages. Phew. Anju, I think I will begin with you. How would you define emotional well being? Everyone talks about it, but what exactly is it? And what are the pillars on which you can build emotional wellness?
So, what we have to think about is that nature has given us our emotions as the mechanism or the cue through which we can understand what is happening on the outside as well as on the inside. And this is done via emotions. And that's the whole gamut: the good, the bad, the ugly. It is not just a specific emotion. So, whether it is joy, love, peace, anger, grief, resentment, jealousy, all these emotions are just cues by the body to let us know where are we now and how do we want to respond to it for the direction that we want to move towards, which means which direction are we going. And emotional well-being is the process through which every day you are learning to acknowledge what emotion you are feeling, which is sensing what you are going through, being able to accept it, and then choosing your response to it. So it's a daily practice, it's not a destination. It is something that you are continuously going to be doing. And once we are aware that all these emotions are available to us as just cues, and every physical, I mean, every species has emotion. And once we accept all the emotions that we have, recognize it, and then choose how to work with it, then well being is what you're feeling and going through all the time.
Sampurna, Anju spoke about a whole gamut of emotions. Forgiveness, I believe, is considered the hardest of all human emotions and yet the most healing of all processes. So tell us why it is necessary to forgive and what are its rewards for emotional well being. Also, I believe you went through a personal tryst with forgiveness, which began your journey. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes. For me, forgiveness is the biggest lesson that we are here for, and it's ongoing, it's lifelong. Forgiveness brings peace, it opens our heart, and it releases us from the toxicity of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is like slow poisoning. It's like taking a teaspoon of poison every day and then waiting for the other person to die. It won't happen. When we don't forgive, we are still bound to the past, which doesn't even exist other than in our own minds. So, forgiveness can release us from those past patterns and actually set us free. But each person has their own meaning of what forgiveness is. So we need to just go through what it is and what it is not so that we can actually understand the value of forgiveness and know what its gains can be. So it's not to excuse, condone, or justify what happened. It's not a cognitive decision. We don't forgive and forget. It's not an exchange for an apology. It's not reconciliation. Genuine forgiveness is not being unfair to the victim. It's not about whether someone deserves my forgiveness. It's not about allowing people to take advantage of me. In genuine forgiveness, we acknowledge that the person has wronged and we release that emotional charge. While decision is the first step, processing our emotions is what brings us to that state. It's a state of forgiveness we come to, and our emotions are not bypassed. When we forgive, rather than forgetting, we actually remember the whole incident in a wholesome new way, where the memory no longer hurts us. We don't swap for an apology. Forgiveness is unmerited mercy. While reconciliation needs forgiveness, we can forgive and not reconcile. It's independent. And regarding justice, the victim gets real freedom. There's no justice in the victim suffering even more with the toxicity of unforgiveness. And whether someone else deserves it or not, we deserve to forgive so that we are not caught in the whirlpool of someone else's misdeeds. And about being taken advantage of, no one can take advantage of us anymore because the pattern itself breaks when we forgive. And then we are free to choose how we want to live. The forgiveness is mainly for oneself and it works in all areas of life: health, relationships, prosperity, peace. When we're stuck, if something is not working, then we know there's something to forgive, even if we don't know what it is. I had a frozen shoulder for months some years ago. I did physio, yoga, affirmations, everything possible, and nothing worked. I was using some affirmations, so I decided to make them into songs. And we had singers. We started with the forgiveness song, and it took about 12 hours in the studio. We were hearing the lyrics over and over. I went home at midnight, went to sleep. When I woke up next morning, the shoulder was free, no longer frozen. We just repeated listening to the words. Something got released. Until date, I don't know what it was. My How my life began, my father left us when I was around 2 years old. I didn't even know what I felt towards him. As an adult, a group of my friends urged me to do some release work. So I didn't feel I had anything because I didn't have any feelings towards him. It was like a stranger. But anyway, I did the release work. I tried to do something. It took me about 45 minutes of punching, verbalizing, and all that before my anger could even surface, to even know that I was angry. But once it surfaced, it just took a couple of minutes for the whole thing to be expressed fully. And then it was all done. With that baggage out of the way, I naturally started to feel a sense of understanding and compassion for him. And I thought that was it, it was over, and I was feeling good towards my father. But that was just the first layer. Over the years, each time something surfaces related to masculine or my father, I took the opportunity to process and heal more layers. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sampurna. Chitra, you've spoken in an earlier chat with me that in these times when we are struggling with insecurity and emotional upheavals, it is important to empower ourselves. Now, first, how do we empower ourselves when we are struggling? And how do we do it? What do you mean by this empowerment?
Yes, thank you for asking that, Archana, because I call myself a self empowerment coach. And for that, first, you have to empower yourself. In the process, I learned that why me is the most disempowering question. When we are in victimhood, why is it happening to me? So the day I gave up on that question, and my question became, why not? Why won't it happen to me? Why am I so special that I will not go through any emotional upheavals, or I will not go through any challenges? I mean, what? I mean, and what is life all about? So the day I started looking at everything as a growth opportunity and also as a gift, as a prasad, then it revealed that gift to me. So, self empowerment to me is just coming out of the victim mentality that something or someone or something is after my life. No. And challenges, we think all these things have increased now. Read anything, we go back in history, there were always challenges, there were always, future was always unknown, people always had emotional upheavals, but the system was such that people process these things in their homes. That is why that, ghar ki baat bahar nahi jani chahiye. You could process, you had support systems. You can't didn't wash your dirty linen in public. And I remember as when I was a growing, young girl, and we said, in America, everybody has a shrink, and we don't need, because we have strong family support system. But today, my business is thriving because people don't have those strong supportive system. Not that I don't want them to have, but we are looking for family outside our family. And that's where we are. And that is beautiful as well, because now the world is a family. We are all connecting beyond blood relationships. So that is empowerment for me, to be even able to connect with people beyond blood relatives.
That actually should come naturally to us, right, Chitra? And coming to this, Anju, true health, again, it is said, comes from innate principles or adherence to natural laws. What exactly are these natural laws? In fact, do we have to relearn them? Have we forgotten them? And if we all have the natural ability to be physically and emotionally healthy, and wellness is always available, then why are we not okay?
Big question. So, I think the first aspect is the aspect of trust and belief. So, rather than focusing on trusting nature, trusting the structure and the function of your body, knowing that if you are a human being, you are given the tools and capacity to be able to protect your structure and to progress, that you are a unique person because no two people are the same, and your uniqueness only needs to flower, not as comparison, but as your own. That's why each one of us are given an individual thumbprint, which is to say, wow, I'm alive and I'm amazing. But what happens because of all the noise that's from the outside and our memories or past experiences, what we are not able to do is to root ourselves in what is termed as trusting and believing the innate wisdom of nature and the body. That is what is the issue. And the moment we trust that innate wisdom, which is, I don't breathe, breath comes to me. I don't wake up in the morning and say sugar check, cholesterol check, weight check. It happens by itself. So, if all of that happens by itself, if we are not able to even create one single strand of hair, What are we fearing? Where is it coming from? So, natural law is actually a word that nobody understands anymore. It's forgotten, it's buried too deep. So, we forget that there are laws of the universe, and those laws of the universe are the same as the laws of your body, because the earth and body are one. It's the same. And if nature hasn't created any error, the human body hasn't. It can't be explained. It has to be experienced. And that experience occurs only when we choose to participate with our life.
What do you mean by participating in life?
Responding, accepting, like Sampoorna said, forgiving, empowering, everything, that whole gamut, and not comparing, not being propelled by what is happening on the outside, but by knowing that you have an inner direction, and all you have to do is to keep your north, and that will automatically happen. And when it doesn't happen, your emotions are telling you. So when you're
Yes.
peaceful, when you're loving, when you're happy, when you're enjoy, when you're dancing, your emotions are saying, wow, I'm okay. And when you're in grief and you're in anger and you just have to then take a pause and say, okay, what do I do now? How can I reboot? What do I need to navigate? Which gear do I have to shift? So if we can just learn to be more kind to ourselves, all these processes actually
Okay,
happen.
lovely, lovely. Sampoorna, if we all want to heal, shouldn't forgiving comes naturally to us? Why are we so reluctant to forgive? Is it because it's a long process? Is it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, can you just drop something like that? Or, I mean, there can't be some deadline, right? To I don't know. You have to tell me. And when you sometimes suggest maybe that a person should just forgive, heal, and move on, it comes across as extremely insensitive, as if we are not recognizing that person's deep hurt. So, how and where does forgiveness begin? And are there any rituals or practices that help us with it?
See, actually, if someone is unwilling to forgive, they would definitely have a reason to hold on, and that needs to be respected. There was a man who felt he would be betraying his family if he forgave his brother in law who cheated the family. So, even if he remotely thought of forgiving, there was a resistance, a part of him that resisted very strongly. So, we need to work differently there, where both parts of him are respected and listened to. So, the best thing to do is to start from where the person is. Even being willing to think about the possibility of forgiveness itself is a good start. Research in psychology shows that even thinking about forgiveness reduces stress and creates healing in the body. If it's hard to forgive someone in particular, we can start by choosing to work with someone who's less difficult and a smaller hurt. In our workshops, we focus on expressing the anger or the hurt first, give it that full range of expression. So once that's done, there's really nothing to forgive anymore. We naturally arrive at that state of forgiveness. And about how long it takes, it could be quick, spontaneous, or it could take years, a lifetime, or never. There is a natural process that goes from one step to another. And in our lives, we often begin the process and then we get stuck somewhere at some one of the steps. Sometimes we may think we've completed it, when actually we may just push down our feelings, bypass our feelings, disown our feelings. And that's when it comes out in some other form. In my forgiveness work, we follow the same natural steps that's there in nature. And we have specific tools for each step along the way. And that makes it quick, deep, and lasting. without the fear of breaking it midway, because we know specifically you do this now, then this, and then this. There was a lady who had loaned a large sum of money to a friend, and that friend absconded with it. So, a decade later, when she came to the forgiveness workshop, she forgave her. And within a few days of that, the friend contacted her out of the blue and repaid the money, apologized and repaid the money. I'm actually writing a book now on forgiveness with all the steps and methods outlined.
How lovely. Uh,
Yeah.
Chitra, you have been a past life regression therapist, right? And I'm not even talking about a previous life here. I'm talking about maybe the recent past or the distant past in this very life. And it keeps intruding into our present. We are somehow not, and sometimes, of course, interferes with a very happy, bright future. So while our past actions do affect the present, they also cause a lot of misery, right? I mean, if you're always rooted in the past, so how is it possible to stay rooted in the present? Because the present moment, they say, is inevitable.
Oh, well. So, as a past life therapist, people always think about past lives. But the fact is, from this moment backwards, everything is past life. In this lifetime, I have lived many lives. But at the same time, that is only if you consider time as linear, which it is not. So these things are not so easy, or simple hai, but not simplistic. So there is so much which is happening, so many influences. I also do family, transgenerational healing. So there are many kinds of. Then there is a concept of parallel lives. So if you start going deeper into these subjects, then it's like you laugh all the time that, oh my god, I mean, like Anju said, what am I even thinking that I am going to do something. But having said that, it is the mind which goes into past. History repeats itself until we have, learned our lessons from that. And or it goes into the future, whether in fear or in anticipation, joy, whichever way. But the body is always in the present moment. So that is why all the practices are, with the body. Whether you connect with your breath, whether you connect with your food, whether you connect with, anything. For me, the most meditative in present practice has been when I'm trekking the mountains. Each foot you have to be so present where you're putting your foot. So these are not just, most of us live in, spiritual bypassing and some la la land, something, oh my God, I'm like meditating and I'm now in present moment. You just connect with your body. If somebody just slaps me, I come into present moment immediately because it stings. So it is, we have to work with the physical, which is given to us. We are embodied spirits. So the body is a very, very important part of, our being. It is the printout of my soul, my whatever, my past lives. Each cell is carrying so much information. So it is like, I don't know how easy it is to process all the information in this lifetime. But the fact is, as long as I'm in the body, if I stay connected, and that is what is yoga, body mind connection. So I come into the present moment. So body is, for me, very, very important. Like Anju said, earth and body are one. So we connect with earth, we are in the present moment. We connect with any element, we are in the present moment. So these are not like some fancy practices. It's very, very basic, very simple practices. So that is what I have to say.
Thank you, Chitra. So, Anju, like you would say, the body is boss. Would you say that for emotional wellness to happen, we have to understand that the body is boss? So, how do we provide the nutrients to the body? And I'm not even talking food here because food is not the only nutrient as we know. So, what are the essentials, nutrients for our emotional well-being, and how do we train the body to be well so that we can have a beautiful mind?
So what I would say is that just you take an analogy of a seed or a car, right? A car doesn't need only petrol or fuel, like you said. So body doesn't need only food. It's all factors. So it's fuel in the fuel tank, it's oil in the oil tank. You charge the battery, you put air in the tire, you clean the carburetor, and you turn on the ignition. So if you put in oil and you don't turn on the ignition, the car's not going to run. So similarly with our body, if you look at a nutrient is actually anything that creates energy for the body. So all aspects that create energy, which is gives you energy or is an energizer. So Dr. Venkat used to say anything that you love, where you use love as an acronym of light over vital energy. So when you love anything that you are doing, so whether it is being with nature, being with your pet, music, being quiet or in silence, okay, nourishment, movement, aroma, any aspect, they are all nutrients or energizers through which the body will have more energy to function. And the more energy we have, we can respond to the cue, which is the emotion that we are sensing, much more effectively, with more awareness. And then that action is less reactive and more with awareness. So it's all energizers. It's not a specific. And how do you keep that in balance, or how do you make that happen more? By having a larger and larger and larger toolkit, which is more and more energizers that you know. And also to be clear, what is my de-energizer? So music might not be what works for me because I don't love it. So to do actions that are going to be what energizes you. And there, normally what we do is we only focus on three. We look at what we eat, we look at how we move, and we look at the stress we feel in our mind. And the moment these three trip, we think Gaya Kam Se, gone. I'm now not going to be able to keep my balance. But if you look at the fact that there's sun, there's darkness, there's sleep, there's massage, there's movement, there's aroma, there's silence, there's bonding, there's laughter, there's so many factors. And as you make that bigger and bigger in terms of your toolkit or all the ways in which you can energize yourself, then automatically being with the body and learning to keep emotional well-being becomes automatic.
That gives me a lot of hope. Sampoorna, we spoke about forgiving somebody else. What if we have to forgive ourselves? What if we have guilt and remorse which cause us great mental distress? So, how does one forgive oneself? Also, I want to know whether it is possible to forgive others without forgiving ourselves. I mean, if we have to be happy, if we have to be balanced, then how do we go about this?
Yeah, I know that struggle very well because my first conscious use of forgiveness was with myself, with self forgiveness. My mother died when I was 22, and I had a lot of guilt about how miserable she had been in the last stages. And that was because of the decisions I had taken for my life. I could never talk about my mother or even think of her without having a kind of choking sensation and a constriction. When I released myself of that guilt, it was like I came out of a deep well. I felt so free, so light. And then I could actually enjoy thinking about her, talk about her, and cherish all the beautiful memories I had of her. I literally regained that entire part of my life just by forgiving myself. And I had to forgive myself. No one else can do it for us.
May I interrupt you, Sampoorna? I want to know how you forgave
Yeah.
yourself.
So
What did you do?
how there are different methods. What I used then was going into a meditative state and coming out of it. And later on, I also did something like, I was writing with both my hands, and I was allowing her to answer through the non-dominant hand. I would ask questions and with my right hand, and I would allow her answers to come through the other hand. And while I was doing that, I would get nice answers from her about, now I would ask, have you forgiven me and stuff? And she would say, yes. And this carried on for a while. And then one such time when I asked similar questions, of course, I would get a whole lot of insights and nice stuff. And once when I asked some question like that, the answer was, I'm fed up of you going on asking me these questions. Go forgive yourself and live your own life. Leave me alone. And then it was like, what am I doing? What am I going on at something with somebody who's not even here anymore? And then I was able to take that in, and uh, like both Anju and Chitra have mentioned about the body, most of my forgiveness work, the release work, is at the physical level. It's through the body, because the body never lies. It always shows what's happening. And so once we do the release at the body level, then everything clears up at other levels. So it's both psychosomatic, somatopsychic, it all works together. And about whether, we forgive, if it doesn't have to be like you forgive yourself first and then others, or others first and then yourself. You just begin anywhere. And we all have reasons to forgive ourselves, because there'll always be something that doesn't sit well with us, with our own values, expectations. It could be something we did, or something we're just guilty about, even if it's not our fault. So either way, self-forgiveness brings us absolution from shame and guilt. It's a very self-supporting way to become whole again. But one thing with self-forgiveness, when we forgive ourselves, and if we are seeking, like I did, seeking forgiveness from my mother, we can't claim or demand it from them. The person has the right not to forgive us. By doing something and then forgiving ourselves and then expecting them to forgive us, we're putting extra burden on them. It's not really fair. Instead, we can make peace with ourselves, forgive ourselves, and if there are any amends we can make, we can do that for them without any expectation. Since we are the ones who feel guilty or ashamed, we need forgiveness from ourselves, not from them. And many benefits from self forgiveness. There was a 50-year-old. She actually kept herself free for a whole week and practiced intensive self forgiveness work. And the gift she got was freedom from knee pain, which she had been carrying for 30 years. Again, she didn't know what it was. There was a jail project that we were involved with, and there was an offender, young man, who was sobbing, weeping, with his slumped over, with his face hidden in his hands, and saying, I'm so bad, I'm so bad. So I explained to him that who he was as a person was different from the behavior he had used. And he thought about it for a moment, and then he looked at me with some gratitude. Then I asked him to think of one time in his life when he had been loving or lovable or anything like that. And then he nodded. So then I asked him whether there was only one occasion or several. And he said there were several times. So then asked him, can you love yourself for all those times? His eyes just went moist, not in shame, but grateful to have recognized that goodness within him. It was a very touching moment when he smiled. All of us had goosebumps. So when we acknowledge what we've done and we forgive ourselves, we can move out of that old pattern and we can go forward living our own truth.
So it is not selfish to forgive yourself, right?
It's
liberating.
selfish not to forgive ourselves.
Yes.
When we forgive ourselves, we're spreading that goodwill to the whole world around us.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Chitra, we are all supposed to be products of parenting. Okay. So the parents also are products of the parenting that they were subjected to. So this is sort of intergenerational. But despite the best that parents do, there is, emphasis on recognizing and healing childhood trauma. So, what exactly is the inner child work that you do, and how does it promote emotional wellness?
Well, inner child work. So the term inner child is about that wounded child, the child inside who is crying, or like, any of these emotions, this angry, hurt, guilty, ashamed, whatever. And all of us, despite whatever parenting we may have had, there is something that brings us to that state, because it's not like the parents are deliberately doing something to hurt us. They may, some parents do, but most of us, whatever we do, the child is processing it in their own mind, with their own proclivities, or the way they are understanding something, perceiving something, and getting hurt somewhere, storing that hurt, or coming out, or throwing a tantrum, or being given a shut up call, and they have not processed their emotions. So like the examples that Sampoorna has been giving, all these people, they are carrying that, that wounded inner child, which makes us behave in childish ways. And we see all over, I mean, including me, we are all, at times we are so childish, and we can see it. Now the healing work, and there are many tools, and some of us are overlapping here with, like, even with this, non-dominant handwriting, or so how you access that, that wounded, little baby inside you. In fact, that is reparenting that little child in, and releasing our parents from that onus of, continuously carrying the burden of our processes, our pain. Now we have to take that power in our hand, reparent that child, and so that the childlike qualities come up. Then that is the wonder child, holy child, I mean, whichever name you give it. These are just terms psychologists have created, so that we are all on the same page, we understand what we are talking about. But whatever names we may give, but all of us have that little child inside us, who is not yet adult, because adult can process emotions, adult can understand what is response, but all our reactions, or all that, that comes from that space of that child within, who's carrying so much of it. And everything is cumulative. Like Sampoorna talked about guilt. I mean, I get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock. So even if I get up sometimes 4:45, oh my god, you're disappointed with yourself, for that second. And that little disappointment, it is like, you can immediately, you say it's okay, all right, you can justify whatever. But that, the registering of the little disappointment, if I don't acknowledge it, if I don't just feel it in my body, where it feels that disappointment, it is going to then be cumulative. And there are so many such moments through the day. And then I'll be sighing, and there'll be grief inside me. And then I'll say, what am I so sad about? There's nothing in my life to feel sad. Little realizing that this tiny disappointments, create that layer of sadness. And once we have worked with the bigger things, the gross things, then the subtler and subtler and subtler, and you become more alert even with that subtle emotions. So this is huge work, very, and very, you know, the work itself energizes you. Like Anju talked about energizers. For some of us who are so engrossed in this work, the work fills us up with energy. So, so the inner child work, yes, very sacred. Actually, all this work is so sacred, and I feel so privileged to be just playing a little small part in people's lives, and in my own life, in a way that I feel empowered to do it.
Oh,
Thank you.
how wonderful. Anju, in fact, Dr. Vijaya Venkat, your mother used to say that all symptoms are signals of the body asking for the conservation of energy. Do not waste it on hurry, worry, and curry. And we know now, you spoke about how energy and emotional well being are related. So, and you also spoke about the different things that you can energize yourself with. And yet, today, we are living in constant fear because the pandemic has created illness consciousness, and that disconnects us from life. So, how can we make the journey from fear to faith, from cure to care, and from illness consciousness to wellness consciousness?
That's a lot you've put into that, Archana. Okay. So first is, the fact is that, yes, she used to say hari, worry, and kari are the three things that are like energy leakages. And what we have to know is that Body constantly gives us signals, and those signals are what we term as our emotions, our cravings, our physical symptoms, whether it's a frozen shoulder, whether it's pain in your gut, whether it's anything. All of these physical symptoms, cravings, and our emotions are actually ways of our body telling us how off we are from our inner balance. What do we need to do to come back to north? Because finally, emotion is energy in motion. It's the internal mechanism of the body to tell you what you're sensing from the outside and what you're communicating to your inner body from the inside. So that's all it is. So the process of moving, whether it is from illness to wellness or from fear to faith, is a journey. And that journey happens when you accept and respect the fact that only a dead body shows no symptom. As long as we're alive, your body is going to keep doing puck puck with you. Somewhere or the other is going to talk to you. Now, whether you want to talk back, like both of them have said, do you want to? I might want to forgive, but do they want to accept it, or will they forgive me? It's a two-way street. That's participation. So all you can do is listen to your body signals, know where you are, and decide how you want to respond to it with all the available energizers that you have around you. So whether it's fear, whether it is wanting a cure, whether it is being ill, they are all your decision on how to move from one to the other. I don't think there's a set way. It cannot be, because one shoe doesn't fit all. It is an individual conscious decision on what to do.
And each one needs a special toolkit of their own,
You
right?
have to create
Your own toolkit.
you are given the opportunity to find it. Nature is so kind. It gives you,
Yes.
it gives you an abundant of, it's like a supermarket. But what you choose for yourself is your participation and your acceptance that symptoms are signals.
Quick answers now, because we are running short of time. Sampoorna, like maintaining physical health and maintain is like, maintaining emotional well-being too, is a continuous process, like we all just said. So if we have to be on guard all the time, that becomes a little difficult, right? So how do we access a state when it becomes simple and automatic?
We don't want to be on guard. Maintaining and being on guard sounds rather stressful.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, we want it to become a part of our routine. Whatever we practice long enough becomes natural, and then that makes it easy. So, like today, if I don't meditate at least for 2 hours a day, I don't feel complete. Mental housekeeping becomes as natural as cleaning our home or having a shower or brushing teeth. So we don't want to be on guard all the time. What we want to do is to live more consciously in awareness. And that's a gentle way of being present to ourselves and to life. And daily challenges will continue to arise. And if we stay centered, we can feel the turbulence on the surface, and we can still feel connected to that calm stillness inside. I remember once there was someone whom I respected a lot, who behaved in a manner that would have left me feeling devastated at any other time. And I was surprised at the response within me. I felt the hurt, the rejection. I was able to experience my emotions. I took in the situation in its reality, seeing what was happening. I was in it and outside of it, witnessing it. A part of my mind was already gathering learning from this experience. And all the while, along with that surface turbulence, I felt a connection, some kind of like being held with something within, a stillness, something with, a connection with my larger consciousness, a space which was open, that was holding me. So these days also, I find that I might react for small, irrelevant stuff, but with actually bigger, more significant things, I find that I'm getting more centered more quickly than I used to.
Chitra, can anyone meditate?
So this is another. There are some experts. So Sampoorna is like a meditation expert, but let me just take that because I wrote a book on meditation. Not that because I wanted to, but because I was commissioned and I had support from Dr. Newton. But now having meditated for last 2 decades and very regularly at that, today I understand that even yogis have to energize themselves. They have to, do yogasanas and pranayam before they sit in meditation. Because meditation is a, and again, for me, meditation happens. I only bring myself there, in that certain posture, certain, I tell myself I have certain processes that I follow. So now, somebody asks, oh, so and so is depressed, we should ask them to meditate. This person should meditate. That again, from tamas, we want to move to sattva. We forget that there is a rajas in between. So all these people, if you are depressed or, you cannot even like move, so what will you do in meditation? You're not. So at least first start moving. You start doing some physical work. Start taking a little walk. Start doing some physical thing. Let the energy rise. Connect with nature, and then think of, and meditation also for them the first step. Just think of concentrating. Even just for a short while, and then yes, think of meditative processes. Uh, so it is like, we just, because we have this society of fads, we just, everybody should eat raw food, everybody should meditate, everybody should do yoga. But there is a, that is why some wise person is needed, and who says like, let's first diagnose you, let's first understand your diagnosis, just understanding. You first understand yourself, and then let's see what is the first step for you. And yes, in future, of course, you will meditate someday, but don't make that the first step. Even in Ashtanga yoga, meditation is not the first
Yes.
step.
Yes.
So we are just making these things as though everybody can just sit and meditate. So let's follow our processes.
Chitra, what are the two most important practices that have bolstered your own well-being? Quick answer.
For me, two things, and they have also mentioned being true unto yourself. Your truth shall set you free, and then be kind to yourself. Because when I do that, then I'm honest with others, and somewhere I can be more kind to them. But first, it begins with me, and that is something I hold on to very, very strongly, that I have to be absolutely honest with myself and then kind to myself.
How wonderful. Anju, can you share three of your own daily practices that are non negotiable and that keep you happy and energized?
Spending time with myself in silence, so that's the time to be grateful, gratitude towards everything that's happening. The second is sharing and caring, which is comes automatically. And the third is wake up, dress up, show up.
Sampoorna, if you have to gift some stellar tools to our viewers to help them find wholeness and joy, what would it be?
I would give them the forgiveness song because
So,
that's
may I
something
request
that,
you to play it for us, please?
yeah, I'll play it for you here and we can close with that. And what I would say is, while the song is playing, we can, just close our eyes and allow whoever comes up in the mind to come up, and then allow the song to take over. That's a song I spoke about. 1 second, please. I forgive, I let go, I wholly forgive. I forgive, I let go, I wholly forgive.
I forgive myself. I do forgive my family, my friends. I forgive. I forgive myself. I do forgive my family, my friends. I forgive. I forgive, I let go, I wholly forgive. I forgive, I let go, I wholly forgive. I am free and they are free. I am free to live my life. I am free and they are free. I am free to live my life. I'm free to be just me. 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 I forgive and let.
Thank you, Sampurna. That was lovely. What a lovely way to end this fabulous conversation. And thank you, Chitra, Anju, and Sampurna, for those valuable insights. May we all be happy. Thank you.